This is Undaunted.Life, a man's podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Thompson. Let's get into it. All right, guys, as you know, it is Dominion season, so we are opening up the applications that are open right now for our 6-month intensive discipleship program. And we've had a lot of teams that have gone through this already. And so I wanted to give you all some exposure to some other folks that have gone through for teams 4 and teams 5, because we are looking for guys to fill up teams 6 and beyond. And so today I've got a representative of team number 4, that is Stephen Addison. Stephen, you seem a little nervous. Why are you nervous, man? We're just talking. We're just buddies. Come on, man.
Don't do this every day. So.
I know. You're telling me off here. You're like, I don't really ever do this. But look at it like this. This is like a work Zoom call that I'm just going to send out to the entire world. Again, we're the number 1 show in Micronesia. So you might get some fans in Micronesia, man.
I'm in.
All right. Well, let's just start with the basic stuff. So what's your age? Where do you live? What do you do for work?
I'm 44 years old. I live in a little place called Hope Sound, Florida, and I do drywall and metal framing.
Okay. Now, I always like asking this question because it's kind of weird, because Undaunted.Life's been a thing since like 2016. So I guess we're coming up on our 10-year anniversary. So when did you first get exposed to Undaunted.Life? Like, how did you find our content? Why in the world do you still listen to me? Like that kind of stuff.
I actually heard you first on the Mic Drop podcast from back in the day. And I was like, that guy sounds kind of interesting. I have a few similar things that I was interested in that you were talking about. And from there, went back, started listening to a bunch of your episodes, and still listening. Yeah, that was about 4 or 5 years ago, I think.
Yeah, I was trying to remember whenever I was out there in Utah. I can't remember how long ago that was, but we've gotten a lot of people here because of that interview with Mike Glover. I think that's still the most viewed interview that he's ever done, and he's had Andy Stumpf and Jocko Willink and all that. So there was something in our conversation that really struck a chord with a lot of guys. And like, so for you, like with the Undaunted stuff, equipping men to push back darkness, like it's one thing to say that on a show, and it's one thing for me to say that during an interview or all that. But guys seemingly like you are like, no, that's what I want to do. I want to be equipped in that way. So what is it about that message? Because, I give political commentary and I give cultural commentary. Maybe that's interesting to people that agree with me or, like to be challenged a little bit. But it seems like you've kind of internalized that a little bit.
I just really want to be able to, help others around me and really understand what I believe, why I believe. I also have 4 kids, and I want to be able to pass along some of that, just pushing back darkness to them. And I really am trying hard to do that.
Well, kind of that next step for guys that we've talked about with the Dominion program, because the feedback we've gotten is like, Kyle, I've listened to the episodes, like I follow the Daily Blade, like, I've seen you speak in person, I've read your devotionals, whatever the thing is, but they're like, I want more. I want more training. I want to be equipped in a more one-on-one type way. That's why you created the Dominion program, and we've had quite a few guys go through it, and we've got quite a few guys already signed up for interviews to try to be on teams 6 and beyond. And so I guess for you, when you heard about the Dominion program, either through my email or through the show or whatever, what got you interested, right? Because, this is, pre-commitment, no, I'm actually going to do this. But what did you hear to where you're like, no, I need to learn more about this?
Basically, it was, I realized that I was kind of coasting in my I've talked to you offline about, I'm trying to find a better foxhole, and I really realized I was coasting and I needed something to go deeper. And I wanted to surround myself with men that were trying to go deeper right now. And I realized that Dominion could probably provide that. And it did. So. Okay.
So obviously you used the word coasting there. That's what the word I would use to describe a lot of guys that I talk to. Cause I'll get maybe stopped in the airport or, just out in public. I got stopped in the park in my city while my boys were playing the other day. And what guys are describing, they're describing it in a lot more words, but you summed it up in that one word, which is coasting. And maybe they're coasting in their marriage, they're coasting as a father, they're coasting when it comes to their fitness, they're just kind of mailing it in. At work, they're just kind of doing the bare minimum so that the boss doesn't yell at them. And so I guess for you, why was coasting not enough? Because for a lot of guys, coasting is enough, right? They just want to keep their wife happy enough to where she's not on their case all the time. Like they just want to keep the world at bay, but they don't really want to do much other than that.
Well, I guess along with coasting, I guess if you're going to scripture, lukewarm comes up, and I don't want to be that guy. I really am trying hard to not be that guy. I struggle with whenever any conversation goes into a deeper theology. I kind of just, my brain would kind of just, go on autopilot. Like, well, I guess I'm not getting in this one. And I just knew that I have to go deeper just for my, first of all, my relationship with Jesus. And then, second, I want to surround myself with other guys that are doing that and just get off the bench. So.
And that's what this is as well, because with the Dominion program, obviously guys are getting access to me to where they can ask me questions and I'm giving them direct feedback on their lives. But I'm putting you with other guys, like you said, from around the country that are also ready. They're like, no, I don't want to be lukewarm. I want to be in the game. I want to get after it. I just need something to stimulate that. I need something to kind of direct me in that path. So, you put in your application, you do the interview. What, I guess, made the decision for you? Because, after the people do their interviews, there's a decision point. It's like, you're either going to do this or you're not. And like we've said, it's a significant investment of time, effort, and capital. Like, this is not, kind of a $20 a month app. This isn't like a one-time, weekend course at $750. Like, this is a multi-$1,000 commitment to yourself. And there's almost like a psychological switch that goes off when you're like, oh, I'm going to start investing like in my development, and I know I need a little bit of a push, and this was the push. So what made the decision for you?
I realized that if I did invest, I had to invest the time and the capital and everything else that I would go all in on it, because I knew that I really wanted to I don't have a lot of time. And so, like, I knew that if I had to do this, I really had to put the time in, and I've done my best to do that with this program. And I think, for me, I knew I needed that. I really knew I needed that, and it was a positive.
Well, Stephen, I can say, just like, because I can kind of observe the guys in the program and I can kind of surmise how much effort they're putting into it. I think you've clearly put in the effort and the time to it. So let's talk about it, because your time in Team 4 is almost coming to a close, and now we can move on to looking at our alumni program, which we call it Watchman, but basically Dominion is like the training, the equipping that you get in order to be that watchman on the wall, as we see described in the book of Isaiah. And so they're the things that I've noticed, but I want to know for you, throughout this program, what have you noticed about your personal development? What does your wife notice? What have your kids noticed? Like, what are those things to where you're like, okay, this is where I was, 6 months ago, and the things that I was doing versus kind of what you're doing and accomplishing now?
So the main change I hope that my family, if they were here now, they would say is my prayer life with them. We always had family devotions, and effort was sometimes put into it, sometimes it was not. But I've really done my best to take the time, stop and pray with my wife, pray with my family, and really just try to listen and to help them through the situations. Some of the program is a lot about physical discipline as well and things like that. And then I already kind of had some of that mapped out in my life, but there's also been some aspects in the program that helped me more even in that discipline side of the house. So, but I would say, the program has really, if they were to say something has changed, I sincerely hope that it's my Bible study with them and my prayers with them. I really hope so.
Well, and I think beyond that, you and I have talked quite a bit about your children and your sons and the things that you're wanting to model for them, but also, this is kind of that dance you have to do as a dad. You don't want to prevent them from making the mistakes because you want them to learn, but you also don't want them to hurt. They're the things that you just want them to do this thing or this task or take on this hobby. But if you force them into it, then they don't want to do it because there's this natural rebellion in a child to just not do what dad says. But then some coach says it or some teacher says it, and then they do it, and you're like, you just want to like strangle them to death. But I know that's been an element of this program for you as well.
Definitely. And we've spoken a lot about that. I mean, I have 3 sons and a daughter, and I was also hoping through this program, I would be able to just glean some of the ways that just even the scriptures or even some of the conversations you and I had, and kind of would lead to other conversations with them that would help lead them toward Jesus. And that's ultimately it. I mean, my kids are pretty disciplined physically, but spiritually, I mean, I'm praying for them. I'm hoping they're figuring it out, and hopefully they can look at me doing my studies and reading my books that I'm trying to grow as a man. And hopefully they're like, hey, maybe they're not catching it now, but maybe later on to look back and go, I want to be like dad like that. So.
Well, Stephen, we've talked about kindling a lot. You and I have about, and this is a, Matt Chandler thing, a Joby Martin thing, and they probably got it from somewhere else, but it's like, you can't save your kids from a eternal salvation standpoint, but you can put a whole bunch of kindling around them so that when the Holy Spirit, puts that spark in there, it just kind of goes up in flames. So, man, as we wrap to a close, I just appreciate you sharing your perspective, especially since it isn't like your normal thing. This isn't like in your wheelhouse. So I appreciate you letting me make you a little bit uncomfortable. But well, actually, let me ask about that before I get to my last question.
Mm-hmm.
There is planned discomfort as part of this program because that's where growth comes, right? So again, most people can see this in a physical context, but if you do the same workout every single week, you're never going to be sore. You're never probably going to be tired. You're never going to be worn down. You're always going to be able to do it. There's no discomfort, right? If you do bench press and bicep curls every Monday and you do the same amount of weight for the same amount of sets and all that, yeah, that's one thing. But then when we do our meetup, because you guys all came out to Oklahoma, I'm wanting to make you guys uncomfortable physically during a lot of the stuff that we're doing. I'm wanting to make you guys uncomfortable mentally with some of the stuff that we're going through, because if you're not being challenged spiritually, mentally, and physically, like why would you even do this program? Like it would make no sense to do that if you just wanted to sign up for something to be comfortable. So I guess talk to the audience a little bit about the discomfort that you've felt, which has kind of led to some of the growth things that you've seen so far.
Yes. So with the discomfort in the groups, like we would get drug into the conversation whether we wanted to or not during the group discussions, and for me, being the guy that kind of sits back, I had to have answers, and it really kind of pushed me more than I was like, oh man, I'm gonna sound like an idiot, but I did my best to eke through them, and it really pushed me, and I needed that. I needed that help. So that program really worked with me on that. So.
Well, Stephen, that's kind of the thing about my personality. And when you're wired this way, you can very easily be a bully or you can very easily be like a coach mentor. But when someone's hiding, like you go, nope, that's not acceptable. It goes back to, I remember, Eddie Penny talked about this whenever he talked about this in his book, and he talked about this when he was on the Sean Ryan show. But, we're at this men's event and we're at this campfire, and like he walked away from the campfire, and I'm like 24 years old, 25 years old. And I'm like, something's going on. And so I leave the campfire and I like head him off and I go, hey buddy, what's going on? He's like, oh no, I got it, whatever. I'm like, seems like something happened at the campfire. You got a little uncomfortable and you wanted to avoid it. Is that right? And I'm just like, I'm challenging without being a jerk, right? Where I'm just kind of like, hey man, and dude, he was desperately wanting someone to pray for him, but he's this 20-year Navy SEAL dev group guy. And he's just like, I can't ask for help. I can't ask for prayer. And like, it's just, you try to find the guy that's trying to hide during the workout. You try to find the guy that's trying to hide during the team call to be like, no man, there's something here for you. Like you just might have to open your mouth. You might just have to move your body a little bit. And so that's what I try to facilitate. And that's what the group, just by the nature of how it is going to work as well. Well, man, last question. So I'll let you off the hook since I know this is all making you very uncomfortable talking out loud to the entire world here. But there are guys right now that are flat out on the fence, right? They're on the fence about putting in an application because you had to put some skin in the game to even apply for this thing. And then you got guys right now that have already done their interview, right? Or are about to do their interview rather in December. And they're on the fence, right? They're just like, I just don't really know what to do. So what is your message to the guy that has the time, effort, and capital available, but is wondering whether or not he should put it into the Dominion program?
If you're coasting right now, this will jumpstart you and it will make you get out of your comfort zone. It will make you just put yourself in places and into situations that they're going to make you a better man. And the bottom line is you have to step out. You have to take that step. You have to put in the effort. And if you put in the effort with this program, you're going to get something back for sure.
Guys, you heard it from Stephen. This is the anti-coasting program. But Stephen, I really appreciate you giving your opinion and your perspective to our audience. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, sir.